Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It's our Monday, August 11th, 2025 meeting. We'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission as well as the staff that are here this evening. To my immediate right is James Fitzsimmons, commission member. Next to Jim is Jeff Cohan, also a commission member. To my immediate left is J.P. Benoit, who is the vice chairperson of the commission. Next to J.P. is Steve Allenson, our secretary. And next to Steve is David Parent, an alternate. And next to Dave is Joe Sanders, who is also an alternate. At the staff table to my left is Cheryl Ann Tubby, our recording secretary, and next to Cheryl Ann is Kevin Pagini, our town planner. I'm Jim Seichter. I'm the chairperson of the commission. Our first order of business is to consider approval of the minutes of our July 14th, 2025 meeting. Any commission members with any comments, adjustments, corrections to the minutes? And if there's none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for July 14, 2025 for the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Good. All right, it brings us to our first item of business is a continuation of a public hearing for a special permit for Midwood Management Corp. at 1000, 1020, 1030, and 1044 1080 Barnes Road. Mr. Allenson, if you'd please note all additional correspondence for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a memorandum from the Department of Engineering to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 14th, 2025. Correspondence from OCC Group to the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 14th, 2025. Correspondence from OCC Group to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 29th, 2025. A document entitled Inventory of Existing Stormwater Facilities for all of those numbers, Barnes Road, Wallingford, noted amended July 29th, 2025. Correspondence from Bubaris Traffic Associates to Mr. David Carson, dated July 29th, 2025. Correspondence from Ed Homan to the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission, dated August 5th, 2025. Correspondence from Joan Munger to the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated August 5th, 2025. Email correspondence from Allison Kapuscinski, Town Engineer, to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated August 7th, 2025. Correspondence from Joe Heron to the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated August 7th, 2025. And a set of revised site plans, date of receipt, August 7th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. And at this point in time, if the applicant would please introduce himself and continue with his presentation from last month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, James Perito, I'm an attorney with Howard & Sage with offices at 265 Church Street in New Haven. I continue to represent the owners of the addresses that we noted, 1000, 1020, 1030, 1044, and 1080 Barnes Road, Midwood Management Corp., and I'm here for the special permit application number 401-25. With me is the owner's representative, Kevin Cornell, our engineering group, OCC Design Consortium, David Carson and George Cotter, our traffic consultant, Jim Barbaras, and our architect, Sam Sargent, is here. At the last meeting, the commission asked us to respond to some questions, generally regarding some of the traffic analysis that was brought up and some site plan questions. And does the commission have any preference which one I address first, or?
Your choice.
Okay.
Just if you would pull the microphone a little bit closer to you so we can pick
Better?
your voice up a
Is that
bit
better? Okay.
That's great,
Thank you.
thanks.
So I think I'd like to start with Jim Barbaras to talk about his report. If you note, as you noted, and as the Mr. Allison noted, you received revised plans dated July 29th, response to some engineering comments, copies of the amended stormwater inventory, and as well as Jim's response to the traffic comments. And I'll keep it brief because it's a brief report, but I think it addresses some of the questions that you had. Jim.
Good evening, Jim Barbaras. The first question that was asked of us was, when we did the counts on Northrop, what time of the year was it? When we did our counts, it was mid-September of 2024. And when the prior study for the development that's across the street on Northrop Road, they did their counts in mid-September of 2022. So that indicates that school buses were in fact in both of those counts.
When you say across the street is the,
Northrop.
yeah, across the street is the cancer center. I think what you're referring to is farther up. It's 1107, right?
I'm referring to the Sally traffic study, yes. So that's,
Which was done on 1107, correct? 1107 Northrop Road.
I'm not
I
sure.
mean, that's what your report
I'm not
says.
sure what the address is.
Yeah, that's what your report says.
Okay, well then that's the one. That's
Yeah,
what I'm referring
yeah, that
to.
one's farther up. I mean, you mislabeled where it was.
Okay. Actually, their study is the
Before.
study that we were told to use in our analysis as background. And that was by the DOT. Their volumes and all that, they had been approved, and we were asked to use that as the background for our study. We then redistributed, well, we didn't redistribute the traffic that we're generating. We just have a 5% distribution to the north of, via Northrop, to see what that would do. That would generate 7 additional vehicles to and from the north during the AM and PM peak periods. The levels of service would not change. They would still be LOS-A and LOS-B. I should point out that there's been some discussion about what has come up for levels of service in a study done by BL in the projects that were proposed in Meriden, both of which were in Research Parkway. One was a real large warehouse development. That was denied, and then there was another one that was smaller. That too was denied. That was the city of Meriden where all that happened. The volumes that they used in those studies were from 2020 or earlier. It sounds like they were earlier because the date of their study is such that we were in the middle of COVID and you couldn't go out there and do counts. So what you did was you went to the DOT and DOT planning, and they told you what volumes to use. And apparently what happened was, which from experience, I know this is what I experienced on other projects in Connecticut, is they went back into the history of the situation to find out what volumes were recorded in the past, and they had you evaluate the highest volumes that were there, not knowing how COVID was going to impact anything. So that's why when they did those analyses, BL did their analyses of the interchange ramps, with not only their background, but also their combined, they were coming up with levels of service D and E for those ramps. Whereas both we and the studies that were done on Northrop Road, our findings for the ramp intersections are B and C. So that's the difference. We're B and C, they're D and E. The difference being is that they worked off a different set of data than we were told to work, okay? Now, you might say, well, why? Well, here's why. When you look at the DOT data, the history for Route 68 between the two I-91 ramps, back in 2013, the count was 20,500 for an average day. In 2016, the count was 21,200, about the same, but a little bit higher. And then in 2022, after the whole thing with COVID subsided, and as you know, one of the big things that has happened throughout Connecticut, and you'll find this no matter where you go in the state, is that many people aren't commuting to work anymore. So that particular traffic has been removed from the system. In 2022, that volume dropped down to 14,400. So in 2013, it was 20,500. In 2022, it's 14,400. And that's why when BL did their analyses of those interchanges, they were coming up with Ds and Es, and when we've done our analyses of this proposal at the same location, in today's environment, we're coming up with Bs and Cs, and actually the intersections on the site drives that are proposed on Northrop are As and Bs. And finally, I'm just bringing this up so that maybe you can get a feel for what happens with all of this. If you go back to ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and use their manual for generating traffic, our development, the warehouse development, which is 415,000 square feet, is estimated will generate 710 trips on a daily basis and about 75 trips during the AM and PM. That's ITE. I'm not talking about Wallingford's way of doing it. If you use the same data source and instead proposed offices, 415,000 square feet of offices, your daily count would almost be sevenfold. It would be 4,750 versus the 710 for warehousing. And the peak hour counts would be about 7.5-fold. It'd be like 545 to 585 trips per hour versus what it would be for warehousing, which is 75 trips per hour. So that's what I have here, unless you have any questions of me.
Commission members with questions for the gentleman concerning the traffic? Anybody? Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned you got your initial information from the DOT. What projects are included on that? Now, we have several years ago, we approved a warehouse on 5 Research Parkway. That's yet to be built. There's traffic improvements that are supposed to be made once that project goes forward. Is the traffic generated or to be generated from that site included in your numbers here?
To my knowledge, everything that has been approved up to date is included in those numbers. That's what the DOT does. It keeps track of all the projects that are approved in a study area, and it makes sure that the database that we're all asked to build off of includes everything that has been approved up to the date, up to the point in time where we're told that we can use it, even if they're not in place. Okay?
And how would that impact, say, projects, like I'm thinking of, I call it the old mortgage lenders building. You know, that's maybe 350,000 square feet, something along that. I suspect it's only probably occupied, I don't know, maybe it's 25, 30,000 square feet. How would that be taken into consideration, you know, with the DOT?
If it's approved for its full potential, even if the traffic isn't yet on the street. Okay? If it's considered at its full potential, even if it's not out on the street. If something is approved, the whole potential of what it's approved for is added to the numbers, even if they're not in place at the time of when the whole procedure is done.
When you say not in place, do you mean not built or not occupied?
Not occupied, okay, or built. It all
Okay, no,
depends. I mean, both. If the volumes aren't physically out there, that doesn't mean they're not included in the numbers. Okay, the numbers are brought up to date to include everything that's been approved and pending, even if it's not in place or occupied yet.
So that's
what they tell us.
That's all taken into consideration by the DOT.
The DOT planners, that's what they're there for.
That's why, Mr. Chairman, after this, if you're at a certain level, you go to the DOT for the large traffic generator. That's one of the things they do, and they look at that, and so they'll have to look at how that's going to affect the state roads. So as Jim said, you know, back 10, 12 years ago, there was, you know, this potential out there that was giving a certain level of service. Now the counts are showing that that level's just not, you know, that traffic's not there. But they've accumulated the information about the projects and, you know, what's supposed to be out there.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Pagini, any questions, any comments just on the traffic here?
No. The town engineer, I believe, asked what she needed to during the process, and our peer reviewer did look at his methodology and didn't see any major flaws, so.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, please continue.
Thanks, Jim. Yep. Next, I'd like to have Dave Carson come up. The question came up regarding some of the sidewalks, and I think you'll see on the email from the town engineer that she was fine with the revised plans that we submitted. The main concern she had was to make sure that the handicapped spaces had the correct sidewalk accessibility. I mean, as you know, the sidewalks are not necessarily required to be throughout the site. And what we've tried to do is to balance sort of beefing up the planting areas by not having sidewalks run along the building, because it's not really needed for the type of use we have with the kind of workers that are coming in and where the trucks are. By having a wider area for planting, we can have essentially beefier plantings that'll last better, as opposed to, you know, the smaller strips that you typically see. But I'll let Dave talk about that. Do you have the mic, Dave? Oh,
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, David Carson, one of the principals of the OCC Group. As the attorney just mentioned, subsequent to our last meeting, we met with the town engineer and the town planner to discuss all of the outstanding engineering comments. We basically addressed all those comments. Of particular note was building entrances, handicap accessibility, sidewalks, loading docks. So little difficult to see, but on the plan you have, we colored in red the building entrances at each building. So each one of these entrances were specifically designed for the location. showing the proposed sidewalks, the length of handicap ramp to become handicap accessible, the handicap accessible detail on the set of plans, I think it's on CD, was revised and upgraded to address those specific issues. So basically, the building entrances, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as shown on the architectural plan, were shown on our site plan. This information was updated throughout the entire set of plans. The entrances at this end of the building are symmetrical on all of the buildings. There basically is two different entrance types just based on where the handicapped parking spaces are located in relation to the actual corner of the building. The only variable is the length of the handicap ramp. The handicap ramps are anywhere from 10 feet in length on building 1 to as long as 22 feet in length on building 3, just to account for the grade differential between the parking lot and the finished floor of the building. There, we've, as shown on the architectural plan, we have added entrances at the center of the building. They may in fact be nothing, ultimately they may in fact be nothing but fire exits. There will be only 2 main entrances per building. The center exits are actually on grade. There are no sidewalks running the length of the building. Early in the design process, we realized that it's a warehouse facility. There is, because of the loading dock areas, there is extensive impervious area on the site, and we wanted to optimize our ability to landscape, particularly along the face of the building, because these buildings are quite tall. And we felt that unless we had a 10-foot landscape strip along the face of the building, we could not put in any kind of robust shrubbery that would, grow to heights to try and bring down, aid the visual appeal of the building. The landscape materials that have been called for have mature heights of 10 to 12 and even 15 feet. These are the type of, not your typical foundation planting that you find in a 5-foot planting strip along the face of the building. Again, as I said, early on that was decided, again, because of the nature of these facilities. It's a warehouse facility. This is strictly employee parking. There is no transient parking. There's no outside vendors coming to the building. Anybody who parks in these parking lots are parking in their car, walking straight to the entrance of the building, regardless of where they park. We don't feel there's any safety issue. It's typical, quite honestly, of most parking lots. I mean, you could envision almost anything you go to, any store you go to or anything. You have massive parking fields. You walk across the parking lot, you walk toward the main door, regardless of whether there's sidewalks along the front of the building or not. The only reason there are ever sidewalks across the front of a building is a retail plaza where the owner of the plaza is trying to encourage you to go to store 2, 3, and 4, even though you walked straight to the grocery store door. Hopefully when you come out, maybe you'll walk down the sidewalk and look at the jewelry store or whatever else is in the plaza. We did investigate. We drove around the entire area. The first one, the best example of what we're trying to achieve here is probably Fairfield Boulevard. Centrac Business Park, which we also designed. If you go to Centrac Business Park, all the initial buildings that were built have single main entrance with the handicap parking. The landscaping in the little strip between the pavement and the building is marvelous. Certainly has grown up over a number of years. If you go up to North Farms and drive around, you will see all of the older buildings that don't have sidewalks near the building also have meticulous landscaping. If you go and look at any of the newer buildings that have a sidewalk right along the face of the building and a little 5-foot strip in between the building and the parking, that it's either dirt, weeds, or nothing. And it's just not practical. The other thing you do find where there are some more manicured sites that have the sidewalk running across the building have multiple entrances to the building, along the building. That is not the case here. So I believe both the town planner and the town engineer understood our reasoning. We did discuss there is no impact on the storm drainage system, with or without the sidewalks. I think that was, which I was unable to explain last time. That was her principal concern, was the fact, is there an impact on the stormwater management system if there were to be sidewalks running the length of the building? And that is not the case. And I believe in her latest comment, she has basically left that decision to the preference of the commission. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions.
Thank you, sir. Commission members, any questions for this gentleman? Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have the other plans there, correct?
Yes.
Could you put up the plans that showed there you go, the colored one? And can you point out Building 3?
This one.
Yeah. How many parking spots are at Building 3?
I would have to, I'm going to do it off the top of my head, and I believe...
Sir, if you could pull microphone, just make like it's karaoke.
Off the top of my head, I believe it's something like 130, 140.
Okay.
Quite a bit more than what's required.
All right, and then if I could, because you were before us last month, have you found a tenant?
Not at this point.
All right,
that I'm
so you
aware of.
don't know the tenant, and the sidewalks that we're talking about are really for, as you indicated last month and just this evening, for employees in the parking. Driving around, and I would tell you, I think this project needs sidewalks. It needs sidewalks to get your employees, or whatever the future employees would be, safely from the parking lot to the building. I appreciate, and I think because of your area, I think the absence of sidewalks looks to be a mistake. It looks to be, those are my words, and I know the town engineer said we typically request sidewalks between the parking lot and the building. So I would support the engineering request normally that we have sidewalks between the parking lot and the building. I will tell you all, I was at Walmart yesterday. There was one sidewalk in that entire sea of pavement in the parking lot. And that's where I always park, because it's the safest area to walk through the parking lot. I think as we talk about not knowing, not disclosing, or not knowing who your tenant would be, employee parking should be a safety concern for us. And so I think, while I appreciate your comments last month and this evening, I just think this project needs sidewalks in the parking lot, between the parking lot and the building for the safety. But you raised a point, if I could. So there's no sidewalks proposed along the frontage of the property.
Correct.
Okay. To the town planner, is that, because it's a special permit, can it be requested or required, or no?
Yes, you can request sidewalks, so you can require it. as long as the other commissioners would like to see that.
I was out at the site several times since the July meeting, as recently as Saturday morning. Are there sidewalks that they would connect to? And do we have sidewalks going in across the street?
Not that I know of at this point. So I think it would mainly just be for employees at this point.
All right, so sidewalk along the frontage would not be connecting to anything that's there? I didn't see any, but I don't know across the street if there was a requirement that we put them in, that be
No,
added.
there was,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, then I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess I would say, I would respectfully request that sidewalks between the parking lots and the building be a condition. Internal sidewalks.
If I may, Commissioner Simmons? So with regard to the fact that you are correct, we don't know the tenant, but the entire layout basically was designed for these buildings to be two-tenant buildings, which is the reason why there's a primary entrance at each end, and the reason why there are two separate parking lots for each building. That was specifically part of the design. We don't anticipate any more than the potential of two tenants in this type of facility.
Anyone else? Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would tend to agree with Commissioner Fitzsimmons about the sidewalks, but I'd also like to take it a step farther because I'm up at the North Farms Reservoir quite often, and there are a lot of walkers from the Landmark business office. No, it's not a jewelry store, it's not a shopping center, but a lot of folks walk down Old Barnes Road to the reservoir and out to 68. And I think with, some of the increased traffic, a sidewalk along the frontage of Old Barnes should be considered. And additionally, with proton therapy going in, basically across the street from building warehouse 1, and the traffic along Northrop, and it's a very kind of dangerous road. I would also like to consider a sidewalk on the western side of Northrop. I think with proton therapy, there's potential for people staying at the hotel across the street, and you're probably going to have patients, maybe wanting to go for a walk somewhere along Northrop or, somewhere down back towards the hotel. So I think for, a bit of safety concerns that, should have been considered. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, but.
I think, this is George Cotter, OCC. I think in your industrial areas up in the Barnes Park South, Barnes Park North, out in Research Parkway, you haven't required sidewalks through that whole development out on main roads. Also, Barnes Park South, there are a number of the buildings this commission has approved don't have sidewalks along the building, only at the entrances. Barnes Park North, the Quest Building, the Sidra Building, which is a large industrial manufacturing type and office building. There are no sidewalks except at the entrances. Out on Research Parkway on Carpenter Lane, Biotech doesn't have sidewalks on the building that's commission has approved. UPS doesn't have a significant portion of where the parking lots are, have sidewalks access to the front of the building. Westoff doesn't. B&L companies up in Meriden don't have sidewalks around their building. only at the entrances. I think you haven't required this in the past of developments, and a significant number of these buildings in each of these areas don't have the sidewalks you're describing. If you've got a retail plaza, you don't require sidewalks in the parking lot. You've got a massive parking lot, people walking to the buildings. There are no parking lots. What you require is landscaping. People walk in the aisleways in all the parking lots, whether it's for retail or commercial. And I was just at a Walmart up in the Hartford area this week. They had one sidewalk through one portion of the parking lot that was perpendicular. If the aisleways are perpendicular to the building, there aren't sidewalks. You walk in the parking lot. This is a building where you've got parking on either side of the aisleway. It isn't a mass parking lot, and you've got access points. You walk in the road, the aisleways for the development. That's the way it's been done. You don't require sidewalks in retail parking lots. That's not what you do. You just require the landscaping to enhance it. So if I walk to Stop and Shop, I never walk on the sidewalk in front of Stop and Shop. I walk to either end of the building, whether I'm in the middle of the parking lot. I walk down the aisle and I walk across the parking lot to the entrance. That's what they do. We're trying to provide a little extra green space in the development of this. You haven't provided sidewalks off-site in all of the areas that we discussed, Barnes Park South, Barnes Park North, or along Research Parkway.
I'd just also like to point out, Mr. Chair, is that to require a sidewalk in front of our building, Building 1, when to the north and south of it, there's existing developments that have no sidewalks. It frankly is just adding a cost for something that's not needed. And the same thing for Building 2, where we're on the east side of us, is that building, there's no sidewalks there. So it's a nice plan if you start for a large area that's not developed and you have a plan to do that. I don't think this is the right project for that kind of requirement, with all due respect.
Okay, thank you.
So, in my professional career, one of the things I always hated to hear was, well, we've always done it this way. Now, that was one of the worst things somebody could have said to me. And I think that, we're taking a better look at how we do things now. We had some other developments along Route 5 where there was not a sidewalk, and we required that for safety reasons. Are these sidewalks going to get a lot of use? No. But, somebody using it will be safer using those sidewalks than walking in Northrop and Old Barnes Road with the increase in traffic. So a lot of what you said I agree with, but you know what? We got to look at it differently now. So that's what I'm asking. And there's plenty of room in this development to add those.
Nothing further on that, Mr. Chair. I
As
think
far as your additional presentation?
We're finished at this point. We wanted to address both the site plan issue and the traffic, and we're happy to respond to any of their comments from the commission and the public.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
at this point in time, it concludes your presentation,
Yes,
is
that's
that correct?
correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commission members, any, yes, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was not at the last meeting, but I watched the proceeding on TV, and I read the very thorough minutes of the meeting. So I appreciate Cheryl Ann's minutes. So there were a couple of things that I would have asked if I was here, so I'd like to ask them now. And Mr. Cotter, I believe, mentioned the height of the building. And there seems to be a discrepancy from what I saw in the meeting. So what is the actual height of the buildings? I understand or heard it was 45 feet tall?
That is the maximum height, yes.
So when you say maximum height,
well,
that is what is going to be built?
It's designed, the site plan is designed for a 45-foot high building. It's conceivable, depending on the design of the roof trusses, that it could be a couple, 3 feet less.
So,
That's assuming a pitched roof, typical pitched roof.
so, you know, you're coming before the commission with a warehouse for long-term storage. And in my research, a long-term storage warehouse is, 20 to 30 feet high. So if you're proposing, a 45-foot height of a warehouse, are you future-proofing that for, some other tenant? Or, what is the discrepancy in the height? Or am I wrong?
Well, I would not like to put it that way, but the standard for new warehouse buildings is 36-foot clear height. Unfortunately, right this evening, I don't have the national statistics for you, but the standard up until 2 years ago was 32 feet, and 85%, at that point, 85% of all proposed warehouses in the country were at 32. The new standard is 36-foot clear height for a warehouse. What has happened is all of the old warehouses that we have of 24-foot clear height and, 50,000, 60,000 square foot warehouses, they're not viable anymore.
Okay. So I'd like to ask this through you, Mr. Chairman, to our town planner, that with a 45-foot height and the size of a couple of the buildings being 157,000 square feet, 150,000 square feet, I believe, is the minimum for what would be, a high cube warehouse. So basically, my question to the town planner is, and I just want to get this on the record, that if they change their usage from long-term storage to anything else, they will have to come back before us to get approval.
Yes, that is correct. They're locked into Land Use Code 150 under our regulations.
Okay.
So that's what they're allowed.
Thank you. And then I think, one of the other comments that came up at the last meeting was noise. And I think the applicant actually mentioned it maybe in the previous meeting that I was at, that, you have the reservoir and sound travels quite easily over water. Now, there's going to be trees and plantings on the side to kind of minimize, sound carry. And, my understanding is this is a 24/7 operation. So that, there could be trucks coming in, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., which, would generate some noise. And I guess my question is, how much traffic, would you expect between, the quiet hours, 10 p.m. and, 7 a.m.? How much, traffic is going to be,
If I may, first of all, we don't really know that this would be 24-hour operation.
well,
We-
I think you,
We-
I think you
we
said
des-
it was.
We designed it for
Yeah.
that. No, we don't anticipate that that's what it's
Okay.
going to be. We designed it for that, and is the reason why we have more parking than what's required by zoning to be able to accommodate a second shift. Because obviously, the first shift will still be parked when a second shift comes in. That's the only reason that came up. We have no reasonable expectation that it's 24 hours, but it may very well be, and we've designed the overall layout to work for a 24 operation. With regard to noise, this dark green, you have to realize that this is all existing woods. I mean, it's not the landscaping around the building. These are trees that are over 100 feet tall.
I'm
Well,
familiar, very
okay,
familiar.
Okay, so we don't really anticipate a noise problem across the reservoir.
It's fine when there's leaves on the trees, but.
You are correct.
In the fall and winter.
You are correct.
Okay, so you're not sure?
No,
Okay.
Building 3, the truck parking would be on the east side of the building. So it's blocked by the building towards Community Lake, or to North Farms Reservoir.
Excellent point. I forgot that. Thank you, Mr. Cotter. All of these buildings were designed in that regard, with the truck docks to the rear of where people are.
Yep,
To the
you're
rear of the
right.
roadway, to the rear of, across the reservoir. We actually had this building 3 actually originally designed the other way and flipped it for that very reason.
Okay. And I think my last question is, there will be a demolition of that one house next to Landmark.
That is correct.
And, I was just wondering what kind of, I know you guys have done this a million times, but, there's not going to be any impact to Landmark with the destruction of that existing house next
No,
door.
a demolition permit would have to be taken out
Okay.
by a licensed contractor.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohan. Anyone else from the commission? Before I go out to the public, Mr. Pagini, any comments from you?
The commission may require noise strategies per our regulations if that's something that you'd want to see.
Okay, good enough. Again, this is a public hearing, so if there's any members of the public like to speak on the application, please come forward with your name and address. I'd like to start first on the right side here. I'd like to show of hands to see people on the right side if anybody would like to comment. We'll start with this gentleman, and then we'll move to the center, and then just go across.
Ed Homan, 12 Murray Lane. I have a simple question. The applicant said they factored the future of 5 Research Parkway warehouse traffic into their numbers, which supposedly generated a B rating at the I-91 ramps. Can you share what the daily tractor trailer trips are assumed to be generated by 5 Research Parkway?
You gentlemen, would you like to, able to answer that question?
Jim, can you come up and answer that?
Jim Bubaris, I don't have that number. The DOT has that number.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
Oops, excuse me. I don't have that number, the DOT has that number. The DOT has included whatever is pending into their numbers, okay? They don't tell us what those numbers are, nor do we know what the breakdown is. They just give us what background levels of traffic, where to add our traffic to.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else on the right side? Yes.
Joan Munger, 15 Valley View Drive. Just a couple quick things about sidewalks, talking about Research Parkway and no requirements for sidewalks. There are sidewalks on a great deal of Research Parkway, but particularly where there's used to a former hotel and now a very large apartment complex, there are sidewalks that border all of those areas because there are a lot of individuals that are going to be out there walking. So there are definitely sidewalks. And on Northrop, where there's a hotel in Proton, again, there are going to be individuals walking. People who don't know Northrop see that as a country road. It is not a country road. That also is posted no through trucks. And so perhaps the joggers, who we see all the time from the hotel, don't realize what jeopardy they put themselves in. And I have no idea where you would possibly put sidewalks on Northrop Road and make that road accessible to all of the traffic that we're looking at, not just from this proposal, but from the proposals that are at the other end. And on Murdoch, there are sidewalks. The building height, when the new standard goes to 65 feet, do these buildings become unviable, which I see as vacant? We see lots of vacant buildings on Research Parkway, which was a lovely area. This is a lovely area now. Leave it alone.
I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, but if we could please maybe just keep the applause till the end. Anyone else on the right? Okay, we'll move to the center, on the right side of the center.
Shirley Shaddish, 6 Tammy Hill Road. I frequently drive Northrop every day, and it's a very narrow road. The sight vision is difficult, especially where the bus station is. My concern is, well, first a curiosity question. It is posted, as the former lady mentioned, that there's no through trucks, but they drive through there. Nobody's obviously enforcing that. And even if a truck driver were to be so polite to obey, when they come from 68 onto Northrop, there's, even if they see the sign too late after they've turned into the street, there's no place to take recourse or redirect. My concern is, are there going to be, with the number of tractor trailers already coming back and forth from Northrop? I know on the Meriden end, they widened the road considerably, and I wondered if that was any possibility to have that done on this end as well, so that the whole road is more viable and a lot safer, especially with that sight line right over the hill where the buses come down. That's so dangerous. That sight line is horrible. And if the tractor trailers and employees, new employees, are right there, anyone coming over that hill not familiar with the area, I think we're in trouble.
Sure.
Thank
There
you.
was, just to answer your question, there was several years ago a Northrop Road study that was done, done for the town, but obviously it's a town road, so that would really fall on the town to, to make improvements to that road. I mean, I fully understand what you're talking about. I think probably all of the members of the commission have certainly gone down that way in the past, and yeah, it's a challenge, and it's certainly a challenge from, I don't know if I think it's Carpenter Lane to Northrop,
Absolutely.
right where the bus terminal is. If you want to make a left, yeah, it certainly creates some issues, but again, that's really an issue for the, for the town to resolve on that.
So it would have nothing to do with your voting?
No,
It's not
because
part of the traffic?
as far as, any improvements for the applicant to make on the road would only be for that portion of the property that's on Northrop Road.
they're affected.
And again, the areas that you're talking about are well beyond the property line of this particular property.
So at this time, there's no plan to widen the road even in front of these facilities?
No, again, that was looked at, and was looked at by our town engineer. There wasn't any proposals made by the applicant, and that was looked at by the town engineer, and she did not make any suggestions for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, in the center aisle, anyone else that'd like to speak? Moving over then to the center left. And we'll take this gentleman, I believe the gentleman in the blue shirt, you had your hand up, and then we'll go farther back.
Okay, my name is Joe Heron, and I've been a resident of Wallingford for 53 years, from the day I was married. And I've raised 7 children, and for 45 years I've been on High Hill Road. And you all look familiar to me because I was involved with the Research Parkway warehousing. And unfortunately, I see the same issues being talked about here, and yet no improvements. Now, I have a very difficult time understanding the gentleman. Who exactly did the studies here? The Department of DOT in Connecticut? I thought these were commission studies, and I have issues with these studies and the conclusions, okay? I have spent many years as a quality director, heavily involved in statistics. I could not follow what this gentleman is saying. Do you gentlemen know who conducted these studies?
Yeah,
Because there's been
Sorry,
3.
I'll answer your question if you give me an
Yes.
opportunity. Thank you. Yeah, the applicant had a professional engineer, traffic firm to do the study. They indicated how they provided some of the information, where some of the information was provided. There was also a review consultant that was hired, paid for by the applicant, but hired by the commission to go and review that traffic study. That was reviewed. We had, it was presented in the record last month as far as the conclusion from the peer review that was done on their study, as well as our town engineer also looked at the traffic analysis. So again, it's professionals that have provided this, reviewed by professionals and reviewed by our staff.
Okay. I've come up with different conclusions. The studies done in 2019 with the Research Parkway labeled that area unsatisfactory. It was a grade of E and F, and no matter how you cut the cake, it was deemed unsatisfactory at that time. How, with this increase of additional traffic, how do we get to a satisfactory grade all of a sudden? I don't understand that at all. I really don't. There was going to be, if you, of course you remember, over 1,000 vehicles exiting and entering that Research Parkway facility. And now you're adding on to that again, and now there's going to be additional traffic from the therapy center. There's additional traffic from Murdoch Avenue. There's additional companies that have appeared since 2019. How does it get to be a satisfactory grade now? I don't understand that. And, I apologize for asking the same question over and over again, but the answers are not forthcoming. And it's going to be a disaster area on 68. Think about it. I thought at the time that the project in Bristol-Myers would be resolved with your decision to approve of that, okay? But it's not over. It's only getting worse. You can't get any too much lower than the E and F. Now, you could call it D, B, or whatever happened, but it was unsatisfactory at that time, and it's unsatisfactory now, it seems. Now, if you bear with me, because it's not only 68 that I'm really concerned about Northrop. And you can say, you know, it's town's concern, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous on that road. If you bear with me, I travel that route from High Hill Road to Northrop and then on to 91 every day, okay? And as I approach the intersection of Carpenter and Research, that is dangerous as well. As a matter of fact, my daughter could confirm it. I have a younger daughter by a half hour, and she was at our house on Sunday, went up to that intersection. She had to stop to figure out which way she's going to turn onto Research. Thank God she stopped, because a tractor trailer steamed through that intersection. That's a dangerous intersection. Okay. And then you move on to Northrop and Carpenter. Well, if you stop at that white line expecting to see traffic coming north or southbound on Northrop, you're going to be waiting a long time. You have to inch up forward, okay? And trucks are coming all the time through there. No through trucks, that's a joke. It really is. I'm sorry for being sort of on the bitter side here, but I've seen this over the years. And when they're going through on Northrop, it may not be at a posted speed, okay? That has not been enforced. I've been, like I said, in the area for 45 years, and I have yet to see, no fault of the policeman, but I have yet to see a policeman pull over a truck who's traveling on that route. It's simply unsafe. Now, I'd like to read, if I may, what the town of Wallingford said about that road and about the traffic. I quote, "Northrop Road lacks the characteristics desired to provide safe mobility for not only the industrial, commercial, and agricultural land uses, but for residents that utilize the roadway as well." I think it's this commission, by the way, has been great. I think they've been fair when it comes to the Research Parkway, but I can't believe you're allowing this particular project to move forward. I can't believe it. Now, just to...
Sir, again, I threw there's other people. I don't want to cut you short, but if you could maybe come to your conclusion, if you would, please.
I just have very brief comments about the ecology and the environment surrounding North Farms Reservoir. As you know, I think you know, that there is an endangered species on the premises of that surrounding. It's an eagle. And then I believe it was one of the commissioners here that questioned what the storage would be in any of those warehouses with respect to food storage. And the resulting pesticides or other poisons that may be necessary to keep those pests under control because of the food. That's it. I could talk a little more, but out of respect for everybody else, thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Again, I believe this gentleman in the blue shirt in the front will be next, and then we'll move farther back.
Thank you. My name is Fred Fiore. I live at 130 High Hill Road. I've never been up against a commission like this, and I thank you for allowing me to do so. I thank you for the questions that you have asked, and also the questions that you have asked. On High Hill Road, I've been there for 2 years in this house. I've lived in Wallingford for almost 2 decades. We love this neighborhood. I have a family. The neighborhood is beautiful. Our neighbors are wonderful. We use this road to do nature walks, to walk dogs, to exercise on. My children and I walk this. We have deer, we have fox, we have raccoons, we have all sorts of animals, including coyotes, that travel through our property. We think it's wonderful to see these animals. This will all change. This will all change. I don't want to see it change. I don't want to see these animals trapped in between. Because in my opinion, for what we're going to do, the amount of traffic increased on High Hill Road will be exponentially increased. Not only with cars, but with trucks. I work the medical device industry, medical device manufacturing. I work alongside the FDA. I'm up against commissions of FDA like you guys, answering questions for my clients about their processes, about their company, about their product. The first thing that we do as a company is analyze risks and benefits, regardless of what's required. We analyze risks and benefits. And if the risks are too high, regardless of what's required, we do not move forward. The benefits must outweigh the risks in order for us to move forward. Additionally, if I were up against the FDA answering questions for my client, and I began with words like, "to my knowledge," that meeting would be immediately closed. Because they would think immediately, I don't have facts, I have not come prepared, and I don't know what I'm talking about. If I come unprepared and they ask me questions I cannot answer or I cannot draft from my clients, the meeting is closed. The product will never reach distribution, will never be approved. So I'm asking everybody here to realize, what are the risks and benefits to Wallingford, to my neighborhood? I don't see any benefit. I see risks. I see high traffic of cars, of people that are strangers to our neighborhood. Could be potentially undesirables, shopping for opportunities. Also, we are going to have heavy truck traffic because they're going to recognize that High Hill Road is a shortcut to their destination. A shortcut. What is the benefit of these big giant trucks going through our neighborhood? There is no benefit. And if you're going to tell me that taxes are going to help our town, I say it's a trade-off, because those taxes are going to be used to repair the road system of High Hill Road. Because by sheer weight and size of these trucks, they will damage our road system. We will not be able to use it to walk our dogs. We will not be able to use it as a trail to walk. We will not be able to use it to exercise on. There are no sidewalks. There's a sidewalk by my house. It begins and ends at my house. There's nothing else. We have nothing else to walk on. This traffic is going to ruin our neighborhood. It's going to trap all the animals in between Northrop and High Hill. They'll have nowhere to go, and not for nothing. But the thing that sold me to our house is one size and the fact that we had all these animals trailing through our property. We think it's beautiful. We don't want it to change. I only see it changing with this situation. I don't see it getting any better. I see 3 buildings. I see 3 times more traffic. I don't care what the DOT says. I don't care what anybody says, okay? I really don't. This is what I see, and this is what I propose is going to happen. We're going to have increased traffic. We're going to have damaged road systems, and we're going to have a damaged neighborhood. I don't want to see this. Please, please, my neighbors, Commission, do not let this happen. Please do not let this happen.
Thank you, sir.
I don't see any benefit. I don't see.
Sir, again, I don't mean to cut you off, but I believe you've made your points several times.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome,
for allowing
sir.
me to speak.
Thank you. Again, moving back in the center left.
Good evening. My name is Celine LaRue. I live at 10 Coventry Court, which is part of the Fairlawn Farm neighborhood, which is across from the North Farms Reservoir. And thank you for the previous explanation about risks and benefits. As a longtime resident of Wallingford who just paid significant increase in our property taxes, I think we should put a little bit more focus on benefits and what these warehouses, how they would benefit. But my main concern is traffic. In that neighborhood, we have a neighborhood, a lot of kids, buses come through, but when I travel, I go out onto 68, whether I'm going to get onto Route 91 or beyond, or going down to Town of Wallingford. My concern is, I have a question about the traffic study, if I understood it right, that was presented earlier about people who work from home remotely. After COVID, a lot of changes were made by companies asking people to come back into the office, especially if you lived within a 50-mile radius. And that includes companies like Burns McDonald and Elevance, who currently occupy the mortgage lender building, which is Office 68 there. So that, to me, would be a question around maybe revisiting the traffic study to see if there's actually increased traffic there and how that impacts the traffic that dumps out into Route 68. So that would be the case in addition to the additional traffic that would be coming off Northrop onto 68. Again, the traffic there has increased to me since COVID, definitely since COVID, as we came out of COVID, definitely since 2023. And in addition to the traffic, I'm concerned about the noise. I live very close. I can hear the traffic on 68, and if there's going to be traffic overnight, it is disturbing to have, that additional noise. And it kind of ruins the kind of sanctity and the peacefulness of our neighborhood. Thank you for letting me speak.
Good enough. Thank you. And I believe this gentleman, and then we'll go back to the individuals in the back of the auditorium.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Rich LaRue. I am at 10 Coventry Court also. I happen to know that woman. I am recently retired president of the Wallingford Land Trust, so I know a little bit about property in Wallingford. And gentlemen, let me remind you that this is some of the most pristine farmland we've got left. And to fill it with these big boxes, and I want you to understand, the gentleman here, the engineers, are saying the building's 45 feet tall. Your air conditioning units are probably going to be at least another 12 foot, if not more. They're going to be up on equipment stands. So you're going to be looking at something that's easily 5 to 6 stories tall. That's going to be virtually taller than the trees around it. These are going to be huge boxes with no windows. They're going to be metal-sided, and these are going to stick out like a sore thumb. So there goes all this pristine, nice-looking property that we have in this corner of Wallingford. So I just want you to comprehend that. 3 huge boxes that are going to be taller than most of the trees in this area. Not to mention, as my wife mentioned, the truck traffic. We live in 10 Coventry Court, which overlooks Route 68 right across from the reservoir. And at night, in the summertime, you cannot have your window open because the trucks are speeding by, and when they come up to Legas Road and the light turns red, they trip their Jake brakes. And let me believe you, or let me understand, or convey to you that that'll wake you up in a sound sleep. So the truck traffic is already bad, and we're only going to make it worse. And we're talking about warehouses. Let's really talk about distribution centers. These are going to run 24/7, probably 364 days a year. We'll give them Christmas off. And this is it's going to be a horrendous operation. I mean, it's one thing, mortgage lenders, they turned out all right. It's pretty quiet, it's decent design. We put the berms in along Legas Road to shadow the building and hide the building from the residential neighborhood. But these 3 buildings, you're not going to be able to hide them. They're going to be eyesores. So that's all I want to add. People before me did an excellent job. They really conveyed the notes. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And moving back, yes, the gentleman there. Anyone else in the center would like to speak? Sure. No, sir, you're up, and the young lady is after you.
Good evening, Bruce Swerka, 1043 Northrop Road, Wallingford, lifelong resident of Northrop Road. You guys have heard it all. At our house, my wife, for 11 years, ran a daycare. We had to make a turnaround in our driveway to stop so our parents didn't get hit. And I always went to the commission, to the police, and said to them, why don't you come to our house? The day the police officer came to our house, he had to go buy it because of the speeding traffic. 4 years ago, when you said several years ago for that traffic study, it was recommended by Sightline because of the speed. Yeah, the speed should only be 30. The trucks now average about 50 on a daily basis. We cannot daily pull out of our driveway on the 7 days of the week onto Northrop Road without taking our life in our hands. Environmental impacts from those three buildings. What are we going to do with the storm runoff after a snowstorm and all the chemicals are put down so everybody can get in and out of work? What's going to happen to the North Farms Res? What's going to happen to the wildlife? What's going to happen to the Proton building across the street? Has anybody been on Northrop Road any of these mornings when they've been building that building? Sure. You can't get on it. You can't enter or exit. Every morning I have to go down Northrop Road, wait for the tractor trailers to sit on the side of the road where there isn't a side of the road, and leave the road blocked. No one addressed it when they did the other end of Northrop Road. No through trucks. Yet my wife and I can tell you how many nights we sat there 12, 1 o'clock in the morning with the tractor trailers trying to back up the road because the road was closed, but they said, oh, we thought we could get through. No legal enforcement has been done. We've had the mayor to our house. He said the same thing. We have a beautiful home that I've lived in for 60 plus years, and we turn around and we let buildings and storage facilities turn around and take over our pristine land like that gentleman just said. We are fortunate. We still have the wildlife. We still have the view. But we deal with it every day. But what are we going to do with that footprint on that land that's going to damage the North Farms Reservoir, and then all of us on the north side of that and Carpenter Lane and North Farms Road all have wells? What's going to happen when our wells are contaminated because of a runoff from those buildings? What is going to happen, and how? How in God's name are they ever going to turn all that traffic from 91 onto 68, onto Barnes Road, and onto Northrop Road to make that happen? It is absolutely, I can't fathom it. I can't fathom what is going to be allowed to happen. Because if they did that proposal 4 years ago, if the town reacted to that proposal to take and slow down Northrop Road, put in the speed tables, put in the speed islands, put in the stop light, put in the stop sign, 4 years we've done nothing. We sat on our asses as a town and just said, well, we'll wait until it's all developed. It's going to be too late. It's going to take someone getting killed on Northrop Road, one of those tractor trailers hitting one of my grandchildren while they're playing in my yard, before you'll finally stop them. And then it's going to become my loss. And all of these people's here, that's why they're here tonight. They're here because that gentleman just said it. We have very little pristine left in Wallingford, and this is going to turn around and damage it. When the town redid the road several years ago in front of my house, the city engineer came to me and said, we want to follow the landscape of your land to reduce that hump, but we need to take X amount of feet to turn around and do it correctly. We let it happen. 2 years ago, when we took the end of Northrop Road and built it up, we didn't care about anybody. They didn't stop the truck traffic. They had to back all the way back up the street. And they still have done nothing about it. I have not seen a police officer on our street to enforce anything. Just like with the Proton building going in, like I already said. They are not addressing any of the safety concerns until someone dies. Then it'll be on record that it happened. That's all I have. But the footprint of that building is going to be a huge environmental impact. You have the natural stone wall on the wall side property. You take all that out. What's going to happen to all that water that's coming off that field that's been protected? No. Now you're going to try to put in a sidewalk? A sidewalk's not going to work. The Proton building, how many feet was that supposed to be? Who's been up to look at that? The tower's as high as the hotel already, and they're not even done. They haven't even put the air conditioners on it yet. I don't disagree with expansion. I don't disagree with that we need it. But you gentlemen all know, and you're all too good at it, to let the bad things happen to us. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll take the young lady in the back. Anyone else in the center would like to speak? Okay, we'll go to you, and then we'll jump over to anyone in the left. Yes.
Hi, I'm Roseanne Brennan. I live at 75 Thorpe Ave in Wallingford. So I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of stuck in between, research, Bristol-Myers fiasco, and also I have 91, and then I have Northrop and always. So this just kind of reminds me also going through Bristol-Myers, but then also when they did the warehouses or...
Could you just slow down
Oh,
just
sorry.
a little
I do
bit?
talk fast. You have to stop me.
Yeah, just a little bit. I
Sorry.
appreciate it. No, that's fine.
So when they built the east side garages, literally in front of my house, this was like a year or two ago, they also made promises that they were going to have shrubbage and like all this protection so we wouldn't hear idling trucks and we wouldn't hear the diesel trucks running all night. Well, no. I mean, they built these things or planted these things and there's a fence there. It doesn't do anything. So I can even have like my kids' windows open at night because you just hear the diesel trucks. All they do is run all night and it's very loud. I can only imagine now what this noise is going to be, even though it doesn't impact me directly, but I do use those roads. I go on Northrop every single day to work. I know what the traffic is, especially when the buses start running. Again, if you don't live here, you don't know. It is intense. Even today, driving home at like 4:20 in the afternoon, it's still almost bumper to bumper, getting back up to the exit 15 area, and that's not even with the school buses run in a few weeks. There's also the traffic that nobody probably considered, but when you're on the other end, I do manage a large practice on the other end of 68, and also when you're coming down there, it's one lane, it's a lot of traffic. A lot of these guys are going to 91 and getting on, so you're also dealing with them coming up too. So it's really going to impact us. I mean, obviously the wildlife, there's nothing here that, again, I can't beat like a dead horse because everybody's said everything already. But I just wanted to say something from my side of the street on Thorpe. So thanks.
Good enough, thank you. Yes, we'll go to this lady in the back. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else in the center that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll go over to the left side after this. Yes, absolutely. You can choose.
Hi, my name is Glenna Peering. I live on Legas Road. I've been there for probably 20-some-odd years now, lifelong Wallingford resident as well. The issues with the whole Blue Cross building now being empty, well, theoretically it's supposed to be quiet. Well, over the summer we had motorcycles and cars every night. Police were there multiple times every weekend. It was ridiculous. What's going to happen with this building over here? Open lots, no people, probably. We think it's going to be a warehouse, maybe, maybe not. If it's a warehouse, it's 24 hours. I happened to work a while back remotely at home overnight. The noise, the traffic, ridiculous. Adding a building of this size, the environmental issues, the runoff, as someone said. When I moved to my house in the morning, 7 a.m., you couldn't get to sleep because you could hear the birds. Now you barely hear them. It's just, we have plenty of buildings that are already empty. The big trucking depot on Industrial Road. Why can't they refurbish that? Use what's already there and leave our wild lands alone and our wetlands. That's about all I have to say.
Good enough, thank you. And anyone on the left side of the auditorium that would like to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, we'll start with this gentleman and then we'll go back to the young lady in the back.
Jack Aragoni, 18 Martin Trail. I was going to be a spectator tonight, but I heard a couple of things made me take some notes. The business with sidewalks, Meriden not having any on research, they're in the process of putting in a bike trail, a walking trail from East Main Street all the way to the Wallingford line. And, you know, I can't wait. And then I look at this piece of land, how nice it would be if Wallingford would continue that right over to the reservoir. There are sidewalks in Meriden. They go right by B&L. The traffic study, I heard that there's less traffic now than there was in 2016. I live around the corner from there. There's a lot more traffic now than there was in 2016. I know the numbers don't say that, so I was back there looking up the Connecticut DOT numbers. In 2016, all they would do is count axles. They put those rubber hoses across the road and count axles. And they got 21,000. In 2022, they count cars and trucks, motorcycles. They tell you everything about them, the distance between them, the speed they're going. Came out to 15,000. It's a lot less. It's a lot less because it's 15,000 vehicles, not 21,000 axles. I was trying to read it on my iPhone. Am I missing something? Maybe I could get some help from the expert.
When you say you're missing something, I kind of
Well,
lost.
I'm trying to see it on the phone. In 2016, 21,000 vehicles. I think he mentioned that earlier. And then in 2022, there's only 15,000. And I know from experience that didn't seem right. So I looked on the phone, the Connecticut DOT, and I believe they counted axles in 2016 with the rubber hoses. But in 2022, they actually count vehicles. So if one truck goes by, it's really 5 axles. Am I interpreting that right?
Would you gentlemen like to comment on that? I'm a bit lost on the question, but
If there were more axles back in 2016, all right, every vehicle has at least 2 axles.
Yeah.
So you would divide that number by 2, all right? So, yes, they are counting axles. They're
Hey,
always
excuse,
counting.
if you could bring the microphone a little closer.
They're
to you.
counting axles. They're always counting axles, okay? That's what the road tubes count, all right? And then depending on how many axles there are, they're either a car or they're a truck. So they can classify at the same time.
One of the other.
And then how far apart the impulses are, they can also measure the speed. So they can do a lot of things with those road tubes.
Good.
But there's no difference in how they did it then as they do it now.
The difference is they used to put the rubber hoses across the road. Now they do it with a camera.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I believe the lady in the back. Is there anyone else before this individual speaks? Anyone else in the audience that would like to comment? Okay, I seeing none, so you'll be our final member of the public.
Hi, my name is Heather Hinckley. I'm a resident of 216 High Hill Road. I participated and sat with the gang when Research Parkway was being invaded by Amazon. Thank you for all for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you all for doing your homework and coming out and seeing our area of Wallingford. It's really appreciated. I'm worried about our water. It's the water that you and I all drink. It's our reservoir. And seeing this huge parking lot and all the chemicals that they use to keep it clear all times of the year, and I know it's a debatable subject, but some people think that climate's changing. We have many icy mornings where people need to get into work and ice melt needs to go down. Where is it all going? It's going into our reservoir. We all have well water on this side of town. We don't have municipal water. And I'd hate to ask you to drink water from my well that might be contaminated. And I don't want to take up much more of your time. I know your time is valuable, and thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, at this point in time, any other commission members would like to question? I'll bring it back to the applicant.
Thank you, Mr.
You've
Chair.
heard comments from the public, you've heard comments from the commission. Certainly, I'm sure you'd like to make some final comments before I
would.
close the public hearing.
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, as you know, the zoning for this area permits this type of a use by special permit. We have submitted plans and revised them several times to address comments from your professional staff, from your planner, from your engineer. We've presented you with the expert testimony and reports of our traffic engineer and our stormwater management design team. And you've had the peer review of the traffic, which you correct, we required to pay for, but it was done by a completely separate entity. In all respects, both Jim Barbaros' report and the peer review made it very clear that the traffic is not, from the standpoint of the engineering experts, is not going to be a problem and a change in level of service on Northrop. And I think Jim pointed out why there was that difference in the levels of service between some of the prior reports and here, and I think that answered those questions quite well. On the issue of the sidewalks, as the town engineer said, it's certainly within your purview to add a condition. I think we've tried to make the point as to the relevancy of sidewalks along the road as well as along the buildings, and our attempt to try to beef up the landscaping there. I think you have in front of you an application which meets all your requirements and has in the record the expert testimony and reports to support the conclusions both on the traffic and the stormwater. We had a comprehensive review by the Wetlands Agency which dealt with questions pertaining to the runoff and the protection of the wetlands and the reservoir directly. There was a lot of design changes to make sure that the systems being designed and in place would address all the concerns that that commission had, and they approved it. So I think we've tried to present a plan that works both with the zoning and with the conditions of the site, and bring to the town a project that when you talk about pluses and minuses, it does bring a fair amount of tax revenue to the town, probably over $600,000 if these were built to this size, not including whatever personal property that tenants might have inside there. So we'd ask that you approve it, and I appreciate your time and your attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, before I close the public hearing, Mr. Pagini, do you have any final comments that you would like to make?
No final comments, but as far as a condition of approval, could it be something that can be worked out between the town engineer and myself, or is this something that you'd want to see come back to the commission, or I guess we just have to figure that part out?
When you say condition of approval?
Correct, for the sidewalks.
For the sidewalks. I think that's something that the commission amongst themselves need to discuss. But if there's no, Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just a question for the town planner. At the July meeting, I indicated that there was no comments from the police department as Wallingford's legal traffic authority. Mr. Bedini replied that they had no comment and deferred to engineering. He'll get those comments. Do we have anything from the police department as Wallingford's legal traffic authority?
No.
No?
No. He's a hard man to get a hold of, and the town engineer didn't think he had really too many comments, so I tried to get a hold of him, but too little, too late. So if you want to wait for that, or...
Well,
he generally comments when he has them, but...
If I might, I mean, this issue has come up before. I mean, it seems this particular applicant, I think I had a reasonable request in July asking for some written comments from the police department, because that would be Wallingford's legal traffic authority. The bulk of the comments from the public related to the traffic. I've been out there. I know what they're seeing, and I think it's our duty to get something from Wallingford's Legal Traffic Authority. I thought it was a simple request, so I'd like to see something. I saw the chief just last week at the night out in town. I didn't think to ask him, hey, did you send a memo? But I think if it's spinning on traffic, I think it behooves us to get something in writing from the chief, as our Legal Traffic Authority.
I don't disagree. I think just need to get it next time, and I apologize if just didn't obtain it, so.
I think at this particular point in time, and I would agree with Mr. Fitzsimmons, that was something that was requested, and it should have been obtained by this commission. And I think it's important that we do have, a comment from our Legal Traffic Authority. So I think at this particular point in time, I don't know what is the time frame for taking action on the application.
Believe there's still till September.
Excuse me?
I believe there's still 1 month.
So we have one additional month that we could continue this public hearing to. And I think, I suspect we would require your concurrence with continuing it till September. Is that correct, Mr. Pagini?
Yes.
So I'm going to leave that to you. I think hopefully you can appreciate, the need for, given the comments that were made by the public,
Mr. Chairman, I was thinking that there's probably a way where, since the police chief could be considered staff, like the engineering comment, that you could close the public hearing but still get that comment before any decision is made? We would run the risk of not being able to.
I don't believe we can close the public hearing and still get additional, get additional information from him, because then if commission members had some comments for him, I think that would perhaps limit us to actually do that. So at least from my perspective, I would certainly like to see this, continued to our September meeting.
Well, I think then, if that's your preference and the commission's...
I suspect it's the commission's preference also.
To get and if there's a way that we can try to ensure that...
well, we're going to do more than try to ensure that we have it.
Make the comment.
I apologize to you, and I apologize to the public. That's something that, was requested, and whether or not the chief is hard to get or not, one can always just sit in his office and wait for him.
All right, then we would consent to continue the hearing to the September meeting, which is just to get the date.
I believe it's the 8th.
The 8th of September, okay.
Okay. All right, at this point in time, I'd entertain, yes, Mr. Allenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick thing, since it seems like we're about to vote on continuing the public hearing. There was one piece that our town engineer didn't weigh in on. She weighed in on the idea of the sidewalks being interconnecting through the buildings, and she said that whether or not those sidewalks were built, it wouldn't have an effect based on the impervious surfaces. There's been a lot of testimony from the public and concerns regarding the drinking water and the wildlife and the animals, which impervious surface can affect that. There was talk about having sidewalks placed on Barnes Road and Northrop Road. I would just ask, if we're going to continue this, to ask our engineer to weigh in on whether or not those additional sidewalks would have an effect. I tend to doubt that they will, but since we're continuing it anyways, I'd like to put the ask out there.
Oh, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Parent.
High Hill Road is kind of a very familiar name to me. I've been on inland wetlands, and I've been here, and that name, road comes up because there always seems to be the problems. And this particular hearing, there seemed to be far more urgency. Discussion seemed to be far more pointed. To the point where I'm wondering maybe we may be going to the well one time too often. So, yeah, I certainly support continuing the hearing, and, and at this point, I'm really starting to have some doubts whether or not I would vote for this thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay, at this, yes, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to go back to, this sidewalk issue because, we've heard a lot about the level of service on Northrop Road. And, basically, in my humble opinion, there's, you take the numbers at face value or not. The fact we don't have any comments from the police chief being, the traffic control officer, is important. As one of the residents mentioned that, these roads have a kind of a usage associated with them. And basically, yes, this is a country road, not really designed for this type of traffic. And yes, several years ago, there were, with the warehouses on the, other end of Northrop, over in the Meriden line, we had a traffic engineer suggest a lot of rumble strips and, a few other things up near the bus station. So, I really think that, these sidewalks internal into, the warehouses, as well as along Northrop and Barnes Road, for me, it's a critical consideration as far as this special permit. And, I think it's really up to, this commission and not really the, town engineer certainly can weigh in and what she thinks on the sidewalks. But again, for me, that would be a main consideration in the voting. And I still have yet to hear from you folks, how you feel about that. And, we're going to come down to September. I don't know what you're going to come back with as far as, what you're considering, for the sidewalks or not. So, I just want to put it out there that, it's important to me and some of the other commissioners. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Gentlemen appear to have some direction. At this point in time, I don't see any other hands coming up. I'd entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to our September 8th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing for application 401-25, special permit, Midwood Management Corp. 1,000, 1,020, 1,030, 1,044, 1,080 Barnes Road to our September 8th Planning and Zoning meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
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 And yes. We'll see you gentlemen on September. Have a nice Labor Day. Thank you. All right, comes us to our next item on our agenda. It's a continuation of a site plan approval for a Connecticut General Statute 830G Site Plan Next Gen Development LLC, 100 South Cherry Street. And if the applicant would please come forward to begin preparing for the presentation. And Mr. Allenson, if you please note all correspondence for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a memorandum from Janus Small Corporation Council to the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 14th, 2025. We have a memorandum from the Department of Engineering to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 31st, 2025. We have a document entitled 100 South Cherry Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, Final Affordability Plan. Date of receipt, July 25th, 2025. Email correspondence from Allison Kapuscinski, Town Engineer, to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated August 4th, 2025. Email correspondence from Janice Small, Corporation Counsel, to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated August 5th, 2025. Correspondence from David L. Nafis to entitled Engineering Report, dated June 9th, 2025. A document noted as 100 South Cherry Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, PZC application number 210-25/830-G site plan. Response to comments dated July 31st, 2025. Date of receipt, August 5th, 2025. Correspondence to Next Gen Development from Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated August 6th, 2025. An inspection report from the Wallingford Fire Department, date of inspection 8/6/2025. A document entitled 100 South Cherry Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, Final Affordability Plan, noted revised, date of receipt, August 6th, 2025. Interoffice memorandum from Thomas Flannery, Senior Engineer, to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated August 6th, 2025. Memorandum from the Department of Engineering to the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated August 7th, 2025. And a set of revised site plans, excuse me, date of receipt, August 5th, 2025. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Allenson. If the applicant would please introduce themselves and please continue with their presentation from last month, and certainly you guys know how to clean a room out.
Thank you, and I appreciate your confidence that we can clean the room out here. Gentlemen, my name is Samuel Sargent. I'm a principal at Lazarus and Sargent Architects, and with me today is one of the owners of Viton Almiri, and also our civil engineer, land surveyor, Dave Nafis. We also have present Adam Hirsch, who is the other owner of the project. And at this point, what we'd like to do is I'd like to ask Dave to demonstrate in the plans how I believe that we have handled all but one of the conditions that are being presented to us as we seek approval on this project.
For the record, David Nafis, licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Nafis and Young Engineers in Northford, Connecticut. Basically, you have the response letter in front of you. Most of the stuff that we've changed on here was for the engineering. It's a lot of like details and small stuff. Basically we shifted this driveway over to keep it away from the hydrant. We've added we added a do not enter sign here, so this is a one way in, no way out, so you can double traffic. Based on what the fire marshal had requested, we added a sidewalk along here it was kind of the courtyard type area. We've added some, there's like catch basin details with hoods, and we've added deeper sumps to catch more of the sediment and the pollutants in those. The buildings, I've talked with Sam about it, and they can be stepped slightly, so across these buildings there might be some slight steps between the units, but we're talking the whole length of this building is probably about 1.5 feet difference in elevation. But everything should be pretty close to come right from the parking lot straight, and there won't be any like really steps. You can almost ramp it right up in. No basements because it'll be slab on grade to the first floor. The bigger one is, as I rip the paper, was the We've added some landscaping to the plans. What we're doing is we've added, along all the common boundaries of other houses, we've added which is like a boxwood bush. And they can either be done individually or they can actually grow together as a hedgerow. So we're gonna put those along all the common boundaries, except for the one back here, because that's just a parking lot. And then we're gonna use all the existing fences that we can and then supplement them with some vinyl fences in some of the other areas at this point. Other than that, it's pretty much similar to what we did last time. It was just like a lot of adding details and some note keeping from the engineering side of it.
Thank you very much, Dave. I'd like to just address that one remaining comment, and I believe it was from Commissioner Fitzsimmons. Thank you very much.
There we go. Now we have it.
If you remember, this was the elevation that I provided before, and your comment was for the building that faces Ward Street, we need an indication of entrances as required by planning and zoning. And this is the revised drawing showing those entrance elements that do, in fact, for those 3 units, face Ward Street. And it's as a simple change as that. Are there any other questions or comments?
I think that was one of the major ones. I do just have a question. You know, on the Ward Street, I guess it's Ward Street entrance, and you can't exit. You know, it just, I guess in some, I'm looking at it and say it seems like a good idea, but realistically, how do you really enforce that? Because, I mean, candidly, someone who's going to be coming in from Ward Street and they're going to park in, you know, that 3rd or 4th space there, yeah, when they decide to leave, I just find it very unrealistic that they're going to go all the way out onto Cherry Street. Is the one way in, no way out, is that required by our traffic authority, or what's the thought pattern on that?
I'm going to have to defer to Mr. Nafis.
I can, yeah. We spoke with Kevin and the town engineer, and they both, because of the stop bar.
Proximity to the railroad tracks?
Yeah, because the stop bar is so far back, people would be cutting in, they'd be
Gotcha.
filling that stop bar between their tracks, and they don't want to see it.
All right,
I guess
no.
it happens on the other side, and I guess it can be quite tricky. If you come out under the light and you don't see it, you may actually continue through, so
Yeah,
it's.
no, okay, I understand that.
And we're going to put do not enter signs on both sides, so it should be clearly marked that you, unfortunately, that's just the way it has to be on that section.
You're going to put stop sticks too? No, I'm just kidding you.
Reverse ones, yes.
Any, I take it is that the extent of your presentation?
I believe that concludes our presentation at this point. I would like to point out that since it is going to be a developing community, that people who don't obey that no, one way in, no way out type of thing will be subject to a certain amount of peer pressure and tomato throwing, I'm thinking.
Are there going to be a garden for your tomatoes?
I would have to look at the site to see if that's a possibility.
All right, enough with the nonsense here. Commission members with questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Parent.
And look at your plans, right? You start off that there's 77 parking spots, but you take out the 5 handicaps, that gives you 72 parking spots, and there's 66 units. That means there's 6 unclaimed spots, or 6 unclaimed parking spots. I do know you use a special formulation as to how many people are going to be living there, but my question is, because there's limited on-street parking, will every person living there have a parking spot?
They should, yeah. They should all have designated parking spots.
So so you're saying that would be, I suppose if every that person living there, so you're saying you would anticipate that there would be then, that would be 72 people living there.
Sure.
That's what, I'm sorry?
Sure.
Okay, fine, thank you. Second question, is in both the plans or conversations, things I've seen, I haven't seen a snow removal plan. Do you have a snow removal plan?
I don't believe, do we have snow removal on?
No, I think what we talked about was,
Just pull that a little closer,
Close to
sir.
the microphone.
what's that?
Yeah, it's the microphone, it's not
Okay,
your phone.
yeah, what we were talking about, Vitan and I talked about originally is during small snowstorms, we'll be able to push it off, but during heavy, large ones, he's gonna have to truck it off-site.
Yeah, we'll do removal on larger snow events. There is some areas in which
snow show.
push snow appropriately.
Sir, if you could please pull a microphone.
There.
Just pull it closer to you, that's great.
There is some areas on the site plan that we can stockpile snow, but in larger snow events, we'll do removal of the snow.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Good. Mr. Fitzsimmons.
You received a memo from the town planner regarding the administrator. Would this be the affordability managed by yourselves, or will you be engaging the Wallingford Housing Authority or another entity?
I believe we'll be doing that ourselves, but we'll be happy to involve the town of Wallingford if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not making a pitch for the housing
Yeah,
authority, but
sure.
but there's a big need.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'd be lying if I didn't say since July, people have said to me, hey, when? I said, it hasn't improved, we're still in the process. But someone said, will it be through the housing authority was the question I was asked. So that's a question. If no, that's fine. Someone had asked me if it was through the housing authority.
Sure, we're happy to look into it, absolutely. If there is a need, obviously, that's why we're building the development. So any way we can help people we're happy to do.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. Anyone else? I guess I do have I've raised this every time there's an affordable housing project in the affordability period. Is there any thought or any interest, willingness to extend the affordability period from the 40 years to the 50 years?
That's something we can discuss.
Okay, let's discuss it.
I believe the 40 years is a long period of time.
Oh, I do too, but I think there's always going to be, at least in my mind, I don't think at the end of 40 years, there's not going to be a need for affordable housing. I think that need is still going to be there. And I mean, I sound like a broken record on this, but at the end of 40 years, this rolls off. And while we may be at our 10% having affordable housing, once it rolls off, then you need to build something else, and you're going to continue to chase something that you may not ever achieve. So, again, I'd certainly appreciate if you'd give some serious consideration and give a big round yes to increasing it to 50 years instead of the 40 years.
Sure, let me just look over my left-hand shoulder here. Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, good, I appreciate that. Mr. Pagini, any comments?
I spoke to Corporation Counsel today. She did say she'll work with the applicant as a condition of approval for the yearly certificate. And then obviously the 40-year duration will have to go to 50 now in the motion. And it'll have to be fixed in the affordability plan.
Okay. Again, this isn't a public hearing, but we always allow members of the public or give the members of the public the opportunity to comment on an application. Is there any members of the public like to make any comments on the application? Okay, I see none. I'll give the gentleman the opportunity to make any final comments. You're not, certainly not required to.
I think at this time we're completely set. I would like to just comment on Commissioner Parent's subtraction of the handicapped accessible parking spaces. There will be, of course, the code minimum at least of accessible units. In fact, all the first floor units are type B units. So those handicapped spaces will be used by people who will be renting those spaces, or those units.
Good. All right, I guess from just my final comments, I think as Mr. Fitzsimmons had mentioned, there's clearly a need for affordable housing. I think we all know that in this town. So I think this is it's an important project. I'm very familiar with this property, especially some of the parcels. It's kind of been open space for quite some time near the railroad tracks. I just lived across the street from this project, so I'm certainly very supportive. I suspect other members of the commission are, and we certainly appreciate you folks coming forward with an affordability project. So with that, if there's no additional comments from anyone, I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve application 210-25, Connecticut General Statute 8-30G, Site Plan, Next Gen Development LLC, 100 South Cherry Street. Site plan approval request to construct an affordable housing development under Connecticut Statute 8-30G with 66 units, 20 of which will be affordable and associated parking on plans entitled 8-30G Site Plan, South Cherry Commons, dated April 30th, 2025, and revised to August 5th, 2025, with the following conditions. 1, comments from the town planner dated 6/12/2025 and 8/6/2025. 2, comments from the senior engineer Tom Flannery, Water and Sewer Division, dated 7/3/2025 and 8/6/2025. 3, comments from town engineer Allison Kapuzinski, dated 7/11/2025, 7/31/2025, 8/7/2025. 4, comments from the fire marshal Brian Schott, dated 7/2/2025 and 8/6/2025. Number 5, operation and maintenance plan or notice of said plan to be filed on Wallingford Land Records. Number 6, excavation permit is required from the Department of Engineering for any work within the right-of-way. Number 7, applicant to confirm any required permits with Amtrak. Number 8, the applicant shall submit a required yearly certificate stating compliance with affordable housing requirements to be reviewed by the law department and shall execute and record a restrictive covenant regarding the affordable units for the 50-year duration period to the issuance of a building permit. Number 9, erosion and sediment control bond shall be posted for each phase of construction progressions in the amount of $9,500 for each specific phase. And number 10, 6 copies of final plans forward to the Planning and Zoning Office.
Thank you, Mr. Van Wait. Do we have any comments on the motion? Yes, Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the date of the comments from town planner was 6/17. I think I heard 6/12.
Yes,
So
it was
just
6/17.
6/17.
Yep.
Amended
Perfect.
to it.
Good. Thank you. At this point in time, we have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons, voting beginning with Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
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 And yes, your application's been approved, gentlemen. Good luck with your plans.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, brings us to our next item, which is a public discussion for sign permit fee. And if you would, as Mr. Whitney would always say, take the wheel. Mr. Pagini.
Sign permit fees, we sent the commission information regarding, we're no longer doing refacing of signage, so anyone that wants to reuse an existing sign does not have to come back for a permit or pay a fee. So any new sign permit would have to be a new sign. It would be subject to a more thorough review by myself and the zoning enforcement officer. So therefore, we feel an updated fee, more consistent with the work required, is necessary.
Any commission members have any comments for Mr. Pagini or any suggestions on what he is recommending? Yes, Mr. Parent.
Just a quick question to Mr. Pagini. How much of the fee revenues that we receive are, really fund the planning and zoning operation?
It doesn't go into the actual department. It just goes into the general fund, so it doesn't really affect, whatever I budget per year is just what I budget per year. So it's just, I don't see the...
do you have off the top, do you remember okay, if you have a budget of so much, but you get so much in fees that goes into the general fund, do you know how much that fee revenue is, or am I asking a bad question?
I did send that out. Let's see, it was... Right now, we roughly take in $5,700 per year. So it looks like if we remove the refacing, which is about 80% of the permits, it's roughly, let's see, just a reduction of 79%. So you're probably looking at, about a $4,000 reduction, roughly. So that's why if we up the new permit fee, just with the work involved, it's not really about the revenue. It's more about just we have to look on site, see what's existing, do measurements, everything else. So there is quite a bit more work involved when it's not just looking at refacing of signage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pagini. Any other commission members? Again, we have a member of the public. Yes, Mr. Allenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question for our town planner, if I may. Mr. Pagini, I'm looking at the email chain here, and there's examples of what a $300 sign permit application fee would be, but is that your office's and the zoning enforcement officer's recommendation of going up to a $300? Is that a number that you're both comfortable with?
Yes. Yeah, she looked into other towns and spoke to other zoning enforcement officers, so that's what she's comfortable with.
I just wanted to make sure I knew the number. Thank you.
There you go. Again, members of the public have an opportunity to speak if they'd like to. Seeing none, I take it because this is it's just public discussion. As far as to increase the fee, would that need to be on our agenda to increase the fee, or can that be done this evening if we decided to do that?
That could be done on public discussion. The last time you guys did the actual fee schedule, it was done on this. So as long as you put a number to it and vote on it, I think that would be acceptable.
Okay. So at this point in time, the town planner is indicating an increase in that fee to $300. Any commission members have a comment on that? Seeing none, I guess it would be up to you, Mr. Benoit, to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we up the new sign permit fees to $300 because let's say, that we were undercharging for new sign permits as they take more time and analysis and thus requires a larger fee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Cohan, please.
Yes.
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 And yes. Moving on.
Administrative approvals. I did just want to make one comment on 5 Research Parkway. It was a full reduction to the previous approval, and that entire file is available for viewing in my office if anyone would like to see that. Any other questions on administrative approvals? ZBA July decisions or the August notice?
There is, yeah, there's nothing for
No,
August.
there's nothing for August, so.
So apparently there's no questions. With that, it appears we're at the end of our agenda, so unless there's no further comments from any commission members, are you tapping there to make a motion?
I just want to make sure it's on, you know?
There you go.
Always getting low.
All right, at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission for Monday, August 11th, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Have a good evening. Thank you.
Sa